Imagine you're driving on the freeway, like you do every day, and suddenly a car comes flying at you. You're able to swerve and avoid it and barely make it out without a scratch. But now your heart is racing and your palms are sweaty. Now imagine that you are sitting at dinner with your significant other, like you do every night. Suddenly an argument breaks out and turns violent. You're able to avoid their first attack, but now your heart is racing and your palms are sweating. Are you going to make it out of this without a scratch? Today I want to persuade you that domestic violence is not only a widespread problem, but it is going to keep plaguing America if we don't stop allowing it to go unnoticed. Having dealt with domestic abuse myself, and after many hours of researching how these policies work, I feel confident in my policy making a difference. Today I first want to talk about why these policies need to change. Secondly, what my policy will consist of. And lastly, I want you to visualize what these policies could bring. So first, let's talk about why we need policy reform. Men and women alike suffer from domestic violence, but yet convicted felons can expunge or get rid of their record of these charges. Domestic violence happens between an intimate partner and an immediate family, which means that it is a very personal crime. A woman by the name of Francesca tells her abuse story and says many times the abuser will isolate the victim to where there are no eyewitnesses, which makes this a tough case to prosecute. The CDC says that 1 in 4 women and 1 in 7 men will experience domestic violence sometime in their life. According to the CDC as well, over 5 million cases of domestic violence occur annually to women ages 18 and older. Now, with domestic violence, there are 2 charges. It's either misdemeanor or felony. With a misdemeanor, you can serve up to a year with probation, rehab, and a possible $2,000 fine. And with a felony, you can serve 2 to 4 years with a possible $6,000 fine. So now we see why this policy needs to be reformed. Now let's talk about what my policy would consist of. If you are convicted of domestic violence, both misdemeanor or felony, you should have to register in a national database, and it should be near impossible for you to get these charges expunged. If you are convicted of a sex crime, both misdemeanor and felony, you have to register for a national database, and you also have a hard time getting this expunged from your record. Both sex crimes and domestic violence are personal crimes. They strongly impact their victims. The Department of Justice says that sex registration and notification programs are important for the general safety of the public. Registering in a database allows the public to be able to see things about these criminals. That would include the crime committed, known aliases, known addresses, and a picture of these criminals. So registering in a database and not being able to expunge these charges are both key to general safety of the public. Now, false accusations do happen, especially in a custody case or a bad breakup. But for every 1 false accusation, there are 9 real domestic violence charges. Of these 9, 7 will have substantial evidence to hopefully convict. 2 will not have substantial evidence but are still occurring. These numbers are from a poll that Colorado PD took. So now we went over why these policies need to be reformed. and what my policies would consist of. Now, lastly, I want you to visualize what these changes could bring. If you're starting to date someone, or you just want to look into their history, it's important that you see charges like domestic violence. Preventing one less sex crime can happen by just knowing that a sex offender lives close to your area. Why should it be the same for domestic violence? Protecting yourself starts with being able to use the resources available to you, like the internet. For example, the recently publicized case of Johnny Depp versus Amber Heard. Amber Heard has previously been convicted of a misdemeanor assault because of a domestic violence dispute. And that was back in 2009. However, in 2011, the police were able to delete her arrest information based on a Washington state law. Now, under my policy, this would still be general public information. So in conclusion, we went over why these domestic violence policies need to be reformed. Next, what my policy would consist of. And lastly, I wanted you to really visualize what these changes could bring. I got this conversation started by first writing to our elected House member, Mark Takano, and secondly, by writing our two California senators, Kamala Harris and Dianne Feinstein. If you all could write one of these elected officials, then we could get a good conversation going and eventually, hopefully, push to get this policy in place. Realizing there's an issue and then stepping up to prevent that issue can help one, or it can help many. Domestic violence is an uncomfortable topic, but just like a car crash, domestic violence can be unimaginable. Let's get this conversation going today.